Why did the millennials lose the culture in the 2010s? The late mid 2010s, late 2010s. Well, there are a lot of reasons for it, but one major reason is that outrage became social currency. You see, millennials became of age in a time when not outrage but comedy was social currency. Like comedians were seen as these eternal truth tellers who tell harsh truths, and they make people laugh to bring attention to very, very difficult issues and topics. In today's world, that role is primarily filled by outrage salesmen, who primarily are like right-wing people, far-right people. Instead of selling comedy, they sell outrage. For millennials, they had figures like George Carlin, Jon Stewart, John Oliver, all these types of people. For Generation Z and maybe younger millennials, they had people like Ben Shapiro. This just goes back to the fact, this just shows you that, for example, it just highlights the reality that conservatives, especially mainstream conservatives, can't really create culture. You can say a lot about millennials, but they created culture. Although they probably had, you could argue they had like the backing of like a neoliberal establishment behind them. You cannot deny that they could create culture. Conservatives cannot create culture. All they can do is bask in outrage. And this is like, we now have a culture of outrage. Outrage gives you clicks, not comedy. Conservatives and right-wingers have been able to position themselves as like these eternal truth tellers, regardless of whether their content actually contains truth or not. That's not the main objective. That's not the main thing that drives eyes and attention to their content. The main thing that drives eyes and attention to their content is outrage. For millennials, it was comedy. Conservatives, it was outrage. And no other there are two people I can use to draw a clear contrast between these two ways of interacting with the world and ways of engaging culture, and that's Ben Shapiro for the right wing and her name is Francesca Fiorentini for the left wing. Francesca Fiorentini is a millennial. She grew up, I believe she's a little older than Ben Shapiro. She grew up in the time where her culture was completely dominated by comedians. She herself is a stand-up comedian. She's like left wing. And you can tell that in a different time and different place, she would probably be very popular. And then you have Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is not funny. He is not charismatic. He is not popular. What drives people to Ben Shapiro is outrage. He sells people outrage. He sells outrage pornography. He does not have a coherent worldview besides military spending and appealing to advertisers and his donors. At least for Francesca Fiorentina, whether you agree with her projects or not, you can at least argue that she has a worldview. Ben Shapiro does not. Ben Shapiro is mostly his popularity is mostly fraudulent, and it is not even manufactured in the same way millennial culture is manufactured. At least millennial culture is actually popular. It actually appealed to people. Ben Shapiro's popularity is almost entirely manufactured, and the culture surrounding Ben Shapiro is entirely manufactured, and it takes advantage of a very genuine right-wing counterculture that emerged during the 2010s and very, very genuine racist sentiment that lies at the underbelly of conservative politics. Racist and reactionary sentiments. Notice how I separate the online counterculture from Ben Shapiro and conservatism. The right-wing online counterculture was not necessarily like this. The culture that surrounds Ben Shapiro is. Ben Shapiro is like the worst of both worlds. He simply sells outrage to people who feel who feel weak and powerless. Many Gen Z young people who feel weak and powerless, and many right-wingers who feel weak and powerless.